Welcome to today's episode, the podcast where we discuss the most recent installments of a different series every show. It's Friday, May 9th, Victory Day if you're a history buff, and while Monday we discussed 19th century cuisine in Paris, we're now taking the theoretical ride on the Eurostar. That's the high-speed rail that runs directly from France to the UK, and stopping off in Liverpool, home to the Beatles, to see what's going on in the penultimate episode of BBC's This City Is Ours, not to be confused with other crime dramas with similar names like City on Fire.
We Own This
or
City.
We Own This City. The difference is this has Mr. Bean.
Wait, what?
This has Mr. Bean in it.
Oh, Sean Bean.
Sean Bean, yes. Is there any other? So episode 7 came out March 4th. It's 60 minutes long. Things that you should know going in is, A, you got to have subtitles because there's a lot of accents. There's slang.
Is it like Guy Ritchie where you don't understand it unless you have subtitles?
No, they're not trying to make it impossible to understand, but they do have words for father, all fella, which I think is old fella, which again, just he refers to his father, who is Ronnie, who is Mr. Bean, as all fella. And then there's busies, which means cops there. And then dirty grass, which I thought was a weed thing because they're drug cartel or whatever, but instead I think it just was an insult of some kind. So you need the subs. Also, the show borrows from its predecessors: Sons of Anarchy, Gangs of London, The Gentleman, Mobland, Mayans MC. Did you get that in the research you were doing?
Yeah, I also saw The Wire. I was wondering The Penguin, if that's possible.
Those last two less so, because they're less about a family game.
Sons of Anarchy, I definitely see where you're coming from, because a lot of that show, especially by the latter half of the series, was Jack's wanting to get out of the crime business with his family.
That's where I was going with it, because It's a drug war where some characters want to leave the business for a better future. Sound familiar?
What about The Godfather? Because
The Godfather?
The Corleone
There's a guy named
family.
Michael in this, and there's a guy named Michael in The Godfather. So there's that connection. Do you remember that Mayans MC episode where it was the main character, I think his girlfriend and him were about to leave? Right. Yeah. Also in The Penguin, where the guy was in the middle episodes, the Penguin's henchman.
Yeah.
He was facing a decision whether or not he should go off with his girlfriend.
Yeah.
Yes. That's sort of what's happening with Michael's character, even though he is the heir apparent to Ronnie, and we'll get into what their beef is later on and how ingrained he is with the drug community there. He is facing that decision with Diana, whether or not he should just leave.
So that might be why the creator Stephen Bouchard said that This City Is Ours is really a love story, kind of in disguise, because from just reading about what has happened in the prior episodes, it seemed like this was a heavy drama, but he says that's what it is mainly about.
Right. And before we accept what happened in the previous episodes, I have to say, it's been a while, but we jumped into this series cold. The name of the episode, or the podcast, is Today's Episode, where we discuss the most recent installment of a different series every show. So what that means is that if the most recent installment was episode 7, the penultimate episode, usually there's so many pilots coming out, that's what we review. I think this is the first time this year that we've actually jumped straight into a late episode in a series.
Right.
That's what makes it a little fun. There are things you have to learn to kind of just omit from your memory that don't really matter. Things like, who is Davey? I know he's dead, but I don't really see how he bears a relevance to me right now when I'm watching this. What really happened in Spain? Had to let that one go. Why the boxing match was a big deal? That seemed like it was very important in previous episodes.
Yeah, it happened last episode.
Right. But what also probably happened last episode, and what's very important, is that there's a dead Bean. Bean blood has been spilled.
Right.
The sacrificial ritual has been completed, and Sean Bean is no longer in the series.
Right. So this was fine to me, because whenever we do TV shows, I always like to have a fact for one of the main characters in the show, whether it's pertaining to them. It could be anything about the show. I had for Sean Bean, I remember watching a Watch Mojo list, and it listed him as the #1 actor that died on screen.
Most killed off actor ever.
But that was 11 years ago. That was back in 2013. I was thinking maybe it doesn't hold a lot of relevance. And then not even 5 minutes into me doing research for this TV show, I learned he dies at the end of episode 2. So it's still very relevant.
Around the fight time.
No, he dies at the very beginning.
Front cover. Does he come out back in backflashes?
I think he shows up for a moment in the next episode. But yes, you're right. He's also in the marketing. He wants a season 2 of this show.
Okay.
So it
can be a prequel.
Yeah, well, I think it would be more like a flashback scene.
I thought you would compare the show, because he died so early, to Kyle Chandler in
Mayor of Kingstown.
Right? I feel like this example has been used before. They wanted to kill off Matthew Fox's character in Lost in the first episode.
Second episodes for main characters this year have not had a good track record.
Do you wanna state which ones for spoiler
No,
purposes or no?
no,
Okay,
no,
we're
we're
gonna
gonna
skip
keep it
over
at
that.
that.
Alright. Well, yeah, do you wanna do a summary of what I should know from the show? 'Cause I was just I kinda understood everything that was happening, but maybe I missed something.
Right, okay, so last episode, because Jamie has figured out by this point, it was like a mystery for 3 episodes, we knew that Michael had killed
Okay,
Ronan.
so that's confirmed because it's funny because even in this episode, Michael does all he can to deny it, and I think Diana is the one who confirmed it to
Right.
me, where she was like, "And when you killed Ronnie," and so then I was like, he would correct her if she was wrong about that, but he's still denying it to Jamie's version of Gemma, or his mom,
Yeah,
Elaine.
I said Ronan, but yes, you're right, it's Ronnie, and yeah, we see him do it at the end of the 2nd episode, but Jamie only figures out in the 5th episode, and then the last episode that they worked on, a big thing was that, Ronnie was going to give the club because he wanted to retire over to Michael. Michael started getting suspicious in the 2nd episode that he was going to give it to Jamie, his son, and that's the reason why he killed him. But in the 6th episode, both of them were like, "You know what? We're just going to have, like, a winner takes all cage match, and we're just going to see who
So
can
settle
win."
it in the ring.
Yeah, basically, and then Jamie was planning on killing him. He had, like, a blade during the boxing match, but
Oh.
Michael still was able to come out on top.
So it sounds like it's a lot of retread from the previous episodes because the crux of this episode of the drama is these two guys, Michael and Jamie, like we've stated, are trying to kill one another.
Right,
That's
so
the entire episode. Jamie, or Jay, because they also call him that, is under the impression, and now it's just confirmed, that Michael killed his father, the patriarch of the gang. Given this, I believe that they should actually call this series not, they should retitle it as not This City Is Ours, but This City Is Mine. Because
that would be
whoever
yeah.
wins gets all the benefits of the drug war, right? Both Jamie and they actually work for the same like business. They're in the same family together,
Right.
right?
That's
They're
that's the main reason. They said that both of them could not be in the same gang,
yeah, it's like
so
if
that's why they had the match.
Jax and Opie had an issue, right?
Right.
Like, and they needed to settle it. How would they have done that? If like Opie had killed Ron Perlman,
It probably it probably would have been left up for a vote, and then they would
yeah, it
have
would have
done it
gone to
that way.
the. But they don't really have the Suns like giant table. They don't have the nights. They kind of just have this like they have an accountant. They have the mom, and then they have this kind of outside source helpful guy who's I think his name is Buddy, but we'll get to him in a minute. So both Jamie and Michael though are very similar.
Okay, I was gonna ask, yeah, what are the fundamental differences and
Michael, well, I'm
similarities?
gonna go through how
Yeah,
they're
yeah, yeah.
similar first. Michael is considered to be Ronnie's heir apparent, so kind of like a son, but Jamie is his actual son. Michael has a pregnant girlfriend named Diana that wants Mike out of the business, and Jamie has a girlfriend too, Melissa, who also has a young baby, so she's a little bit further along, but neither are married, and I would assume that Melissa sort of wants out of the business. I wasn't 100% clear on that. Both feel like it's their obligation to take one another out at this point for honor's sake. They both have black eyes, which I think they got in the
Mhm.
fight. Michael looks more like a discount Chris Martin from Coldplay than Jamie does, and that's the main difference. For research purposes, I shall now read the entirety of where Chris Martin is from because I thought maybe because of how similar they looked, maybe they're both from Liverpool. He's actually from Whitestone, and this is the full Wikipedia page for Whitestone. Whitestone is a small village in Devon, England, approximately 4 miles east of Exeter. It is in the parish of Whitestone, one of the 45 parish and town councils of Tainbridge District Council. It has a population of 759. It is the village where Chris Martin of Coldplay was raised. The whole Wikipedia page is 65 words. It is the shortest Wikipedia page I've ever seen post 2009.
Well, for the character of Michael, they actually filmed in his hometown. They filmed in
That's
Liverpool
what
in
I was
Spain.
that's
Right.
what I'm saying.
And so, yes,
They
so
look so similar though.
it's his first leading role. He actually became an actor because he was fresh out of art school, and then he ran into Stephen Graham and his wife at a restaurant. This was back in like the early 2000s, maybe
That's
even late
Sherlock or Doctor
90s.
Who guy.
Stephen Graham is the guy from Adolescence. So he
Oh,
ran
of
into the
course.
he
And guess what? Sean Bean also worked with Stephen
Right.
Graham.
No, no, and that kind of goes along with the story because Stephen Graham and his wife met him at a restaurant. They talked, and he kind of was talking about all the troubles that he's seen, kind of with his future. So then James Nelson Joyce, that's the person who plays Michael. Years later, he is cast as a gang member in a series called Little Boy Blue that starred Stephen Graham. And the first thing that Stephen Graham said to him when they talked on set was, "You're the kid from the restaurant." So that's how he ended up, but yeah, so he said Stephen Graham is very supportive of him, but that's also how he got started and was cast in this show.
Right. So Michael is Michael and Jay is Jamie. So Michael is approached by Jay's mom, Elaine. He denies killing Ronnie for the umpteenth time. She says, I don't care. You kill Jamie, you're going to have to kill me too. Again, very
Oh,
Gemma-ish,
yeah.
right? Elaine also has like this deeper plan. She wants to sort of take the power away from Michael. He's been the one running head on this drug thing, and she wants her family to kind of take more responsibility. That includes Jamie and Rachel, I believe, who is the accountant, and then also Bobby Duffy, who is their trusted friend. They want to use the amigos, who are the people who actually facilitate the drugs, and but Michael has a tighter connection with them.
Right, so
Anyway,
the amigos, they're the people that they're kind of the most professional, is that what I was understanding, like, with the drugs? Because 'Cause
oh,
they're the ones who
well,
have.
again, so they have money clearly, and they have some connections to who they're selling to, but the amigos are, yeah, they're like connected to a whole other part of the world. They're like the agents who are in connection with everybody
And
else.
that's very gentlemanish, yeah.
Yeah, it's very British. Jamie makes the first attempt to then kill Michael, even despite the fact that his mom has just like reached out to Michael.
And the fact that Michael has actually fairly won the match from last episode,
I don't
but
think
yeah.
anybody's caring about that. Not even Michael cares about that. But Jamie rams into Michael's car at a gas station, shoots it up, and then makes a getaway. And then Michael was wearing a bulletproof vest because he's expecting Jamie to try to kill him. And he's now more ticked off. And if there was any question whether or not he was going to try to kill Jamie back, this kind of ended that.
So right there,
Yeah.
what side are you on, Jamie or Michael at this point?
At first, it's hard because, like, in the first scene, Jamie's already plotting to kill Michael, and he's hanging out with these, like, 2 other dudes, and he's got a black guy, and he's like, "You killed my father. I have to do this." Then you meet Michael. Michael seems like he's lying about the fact that he killed, Ronnie, and then, like, you can tell Elaine is sort of a good character, like, she's not trying to cause more bloodshed, and so you're rooting for her side, and her side is more Jamie's side, and so I guess you're okay with it when he's, like, trying to put the hit out, but you know sort of that Michael's going to escape that for they wouldn't kill his character off so early in the episode. By the end of the episode, I would say you're probably more on Michael's side.
So it's very alpha doggish, it feels like, where at least at the beginning of the movie, you're not sure which side you're supposed to be on, even
Uh,
though both of them.
Alpha Dog, you have like one teenage character who gets kidnapped. I'm
Yes,
pretty sure
but
the whole time you're
d
just like
don't you
rooting for
remember
that
the
kid.
beginning of the movie? It was 2 gangs, and you weren't sure which gang side you were supposed to be on until, like, 30 minutes of the way through?
Oh, you remember that movie better than I do then. Yeah. But Elaine, Rachel, that's Jamie's cousin, the accountant, Bobby Duffy, this is the trusted family friend. I immediately recognized his voice from Inheritance. I didn't think I would ever recognize anybody from Inheritance.
Especially because I
It's
watched the
such
whole
a
series and you did not.
I watched the first episode, but that is such like a callback. But as soon as I saw him, I was like, if he has that matching timbre, like really low voice, that's the same dude. And then I looked it up, and it was. I was impressed with myself. And Jamie, they're all together at the house after this hit, and they're discussing the plans to work with the amigos. Ricardo is like the main dude at the amigos. Buy the drugs from them with the money that they have. Ricardo, though, is somewhat faithful to Michael. He calls up Michael and he says, it just cues him in on everything that's going on. Michael's like, that's my money technically, but go ahead and do it. I have a bigger plan. I want you to get me a bunch more drugs as well, and I will kill off Jamie soon. Everybody now knows that Jamie has tried to kill Michael and that Michael is still alive. So Jamie should be more concerned than he is, but he's just driving around with his wife.
It's such an odd situation because I feel like, and you may be able to correct me on this, but it seems like, at least for the episode, but also I got it when I was reading the recaps, Michael is the main character of the series. Yet the main character of the series also seems to be the one that does the worst thing. He literally kills the gang leader.
But we don't know why. And again, that's one of those things where you have to just accept the past for how it is. We are now in the present, and Jamie and Michael are at war. And so when he confronts Jamie, so what he does is he gets in front of him in his car, so Jamie doesn't know that it's Michael driving the car in front. They get to a stoplight, and behind him in the SUV, you've got Melissa there, the baby's in the back, and Jamie, and they're having some sort of discussion. And that's when the light turns green and Michael doesn't go. And so they start honking and Michael's not moving. And then the light turns red again. And it's just kind of like a deserted light. So nobody else
So
is
they're the
around.
only 2 cars there?
Right. Until at the very end, another car pulls up, and that's when Michael puts on the mask. He jumps out of the car, And this is after ramming backwards, like he goes into reverse and like completely jars uh Jamie and Melissa and the baby, and they're all like kind of freaking out. And he jumps out of his car with a mask and he's about to shoot Jamie, and then it cuts to black. And the way they did it wasn't cheap enough to make you think that he's 100% not dead.
Right.
Normally, it'll be a dead giveaway, but I honestly didn't know. I was like, they're leaving it up, and there's a good possibility he did, and that's the final twist of the dagger in her stomach or something, because you didn't really want either of them to die at this point. And then he's talking to Diana. Michael has gone to a date with his
So
girlfriend.
that wasn't the end of the episode. It was like
No,
a
no,
kind
no,
of a
no, no.
fake end. Okay.
It's not even a fake end. It's more just like, okay, something's been dealt with. He had to kill Jamie. If he didn't, there's going to be horrible consequences. However, we did see a flash where the last thing Jamie was doing was trying to protect his wife and baby from getting shot. And so you knew that that was going to tug at Michael's heart. And so he's talking to Diana, and Diana's trying to break up with him. So
Hmm.
there's a good 10-minute conversation probably where Diana is just saying, I killed my own father and my mom went to prison for it. This is a confession. She's never told it to Michael. And Michael's like, that makes me love you more. And she's like, we shouldn't be raising a baby together. And he's like, I think we'd be the perfect parents to raise a baby together. And she'd be like, but you'd be too tied down with work here and you're never going to leave it no matter what you say. And he's like, I'm ready to leave today, right now. And they go back and forth like this. And what I like about the scene is that usually she would give in way too easily. Like she'd just be like, all right, well, I guess my reservations have been cleared and we'll go. But she really, really did fight to break up with him. And
It seems like he's
he
clinging.
said
He's just
everything right. Like usually there's a mistake written in there on purpose so that like
they
that'll
can
be the
hone in on
final.
that. Yeah.
Yeah, that'll be the final nail in the coffin or the thing that like she ignores and then they still get to. But it seemed like they were both on the exact same page. And by the end, they were holding hands and leaving that place. And they were trying to get out of there as quickly as possible. And I think it's also presented that he didn't kill. Yeah, he admits to her when she's like, "You're never going to stop being this person." He's like, "I literally didn't kill Jamie." Like we didn't see that happen. I
Mhm.
loved how they just like threw that in there in the discussion. It was a really good scene. And they're walking out, and that's when the Amigos guy shows up, Ricardo, and he's like, "You didn't do what you said you were going to
Yeah.
do.
Right.
You owe us money by tomorrow." And so now he's all like wrapped up in that. He can't leave yet. And Diana's standing there. And I wouldn't have been surprised if she just slapped him and like left. But it does seem like she realizes that he has no control over this and that she does still love him. And so that's kind of where they leave it. Ricardo goes further. He threatens to kill Michael's like number two, Banksy, and his son by blowing up their car. He does blow up their
I
car,
was gonna say that's the end
but
of the
he
episode,
makes
right?
sure that Banksy is out of there. If this was a US series or The Wire or something else, he would have killed Banksy. Like Banksy would have been dead. But I guess it's kind of like a tamer note because this is just Liverpool, and I guess an exploding car is less or like of an issue. They also had the last bit is a police storyline. There's this Barney Styles dude who doesn't like Michael, but he's got a sense of humor in and of himself, and he's like kind of going after Diana. He confronts her at the door, at her front door,
Mhm.
and asks where Michael is, and keeps on asking more and more questions until she's finally like, "I'm going to close the door now, so mind your big nose." That was my favorite line of the entire episode. But
I,
yeah, that's everything that happened.
so I mean, like obviously that's a lot, but my question is it Shakespearean in any way? Because I mean,
Family's always
well, if
Shakespeare.
you think about like I was reading like kind of comparisons to Hamlet as
Right,
well.
because so Hamlet, someone else kills his dad,
Right.
and he has to like face the repercussions of that, and his sister goes crazy and all that stuff. I don't see the crazy aspect, like him seeing his family devolve in front of him. It seems like his family is keeping him up, and that he's the one who's going a little mad. And by him, I mean Jamie. Michael, on the other hand, is kind of just a wild card. He doesn't feel like a Hamlet character at all because he's would be the antagonist, like you were pointing out earlier, because he did kill Ronnie. I'm sure he did it for a good reason.
No, I told you he did it because he was afraid. He was supposed to be gaining the gang, but he was getting more and more afraid, especially in the second episode, that Ronnie was instead going to give the gang over to Jamie. So then he
But
decided,
that's the selfishness. Like, it
yeah,
seems like either he was a really selfish person who's just become very selfless by the end because he doesn't kill Jamie and he doesn't, and he runs away with his girlfriend or tries to. But, like, this is a major turn for Michael. So that's probably the biggest change in this episode. There's some moving parts, but it's not too hard to understand even jumping in. I will watch the finale now, but I don't feel like I necessarily have to go back and
So you're not
see.
gonna watch the first
Yeah, I
6
don't really see a
episodes.
reason to. I think it's a solid episode, 7 out of 10, better than normal. The 2 attempted hits were really cool, especially the second one at the stoplight. You just don't see it wasn't as gritty as like a Guy Ritchie thing, and it wasn't overplayed. It was like when someone got rammed into by a car, they had the expected reaction. They didn't jump out like Bucky from Thunderbolts and start punching people and being able to fight like he was trying to protect his family in the
I know
process.
that you said that there were cops, but who is the most morally right in the series if you had to pick a character?
Hmm. Elaine.
Elaine, okay.
Probably just because whenever they brought up killing Michael, she was trying her best to just pay him off. So I do see an avenue where the finale could go a very bloodless route. What they could do is they could pay Michael's debt to the amigos and say, "We're square now, and you go off and do your thing. We'll pay Ricardo off because ultimately that's all Ricardo wants is his money." I don't even think he would be that upset if Michael just disappeared, and they definitely want Michael to disappear. So if they wanted to do it that way, Michael and Diana ship off to wherever to raise their kid. Jamie takes over the family business. Now they are still a drug cartel of sorts, so that's not great, but overall, like, everybody survives and would be happier.
That kind of answers my question because I was going to ask, does it seem like Michael, if you were able to kill Jamie, would leave the group happily? Like, is he just out for revenge or is
He
this
didn't
something
want to
right?
kill Jamie at the beginning of the episode. Both Jamie and Michael were given the opportunity by their henchmen, like their number twos. I didn't get the name of of Jamie's number two, but he kind of came off as a dick. Like Banksy came off sort of cool with his kid, but
It's
the
like
other guy.
Blink, right? Or something.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
think it was Blink, but both of them were in charge of getting them the weapon, the gun, but both of them also were like, "If you don't do it, then it's gonna be a tarnish on your name, and people are gonna think you're weak, and they just can't have that, not in this society." And so both of them, again, were juxtaposed. They were foils of one another, but they were so, so similar.
I think that, yeah, the show has gotten critical acclaim. It has an 8.1 IMDb with around 4,000 reviews, 91% on Rotten Tomatoes. I know the Telegraph gave it 5 out of 5 stars, but the Independent also gave the series 4 out of 5 stars, calling it gripping and that the narrative simmers with menace. And I feel like, if anything, you probably got that most this episode.
Was it the most gripping crime thriller, gang story, or drug deal plot that I've ever seen? No, it's not Breaking Bad, but it's not riding the cliches to like the end of its life. It's definitely providing something new. The breakup itself, I thinking about it now, I was going to say that the second attempt on Jamie's life was the best scene of the show, or seeing the inheritance dude. But honestly, it is 8 times out of 10. Michael would have lost that fight. He would have lost Diana, and that would have caused him to go into a tailspin. And this series would have been all about his broodiness and him wanting, like, the fact that he actually got the girl there at the end and was able to convince her, and they both seemed to like actually like each other. That made it different. So I like that episode.
I know that they're going to have kind of a conclusive season 1. Fans, and like I said, even Sean Bean has said, renewed this series. It was really fun to be on, and a lot of people are wanting it to be renewed. But the writer, Stephen Bouchard, who is probably most known for his first 3 seasons, or the first 3 seasons of The Last Kingdom, he wrote for it.
Oh,
He also wrote for this. He said he did it with an 8-episode order in mind, and if they did season 2, he'd be open for it. But for right now, he did it with just a 1-season order.
okay. I mean, that's not unknown to British series. They tend to have less seasons than American ones do. Not as few as South Korean series. Those usually only run one season at
When
most.
they're done, they're done.
Yeah, they have like 13 episodes, but they're constantly coming out, and they constantly have the same people in them. So it's a different way of entertainment. Thanks for listening. We'll see you in the next episode. Hope you enjoyed this one. Bye.
Bye.